Podcast. I'm your girl, Cookie. It's Sunday, fun day. Welcome, welcome. Have a seat. If you are new to my channel, how you doing? Welcome to the Grown and Sexy Club. All right, guys, as you know, on Sundays, it's time for Bkchat episode 7 of BKchatLnd. Okay, it's episode 7 of BKchatLnd. I'm a little hyped today. I don't know why. I feel good. Hope you guys do too. All right, so let's get into the review of BKchatLnd. All right, as you guys know, at the moment, we've been reviewing Bkchat now, and it's been dramatic. It's been exciting. It's been controversial. It's been all of that good stuff. So if you are a new visitor to the Cookie Effect Podcast, sit tight, relax, and enjoy yourself. Okay? Now, if you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe down below. Please help a girl out. Subscribe down below. And don't forget, you can also like the video if you like anything about this video. Okay? Whether it be, I don't know, my attitude, my hair, my clothes, just whatever. If you just want to show support, just click the like button, okay? And help your sister out. All right, guys, let's get straight into the mess that is BKchatLnd. Wow, as usual, you guys saw that. Shocking. Okay, you saw the question, but before we divulge into the question, let's talk about the castmates on this episode of Bkchat. Okay, now this episode is going to be really good because a few of the unusual suspects are not on the panel this week. We have a new setup, kind of. A lot of the castmates, like Castillo, like Mark, were not on the panel this time. Gogo, Lucas, they weren't on the panel this time. We have B Money, okay, he's an OG, B Money. We have Chris, we have Terrell, the transgender. We also have this kid, Pierre, okay, we'll talk about him later. And then we have my boy Jay. Okay, that's for the boys' side. And on the girls' side, we had Catherine, we had OG Esther, we had Sylvia, and we had Tara, and we had Nina Rose. Okay, those were the castmates for this episode. And I really like that it was fresh faces on this episode. Lonnie wasn't on this episode. Mark wasn't on this episode. Castillo wasn't on this episode, and I feel like those three people, even though I love Lonnie, I love what she brings to the table, but I feel like she's really, really loud sometimes, and you know, she gets really, really emotional, and she gets really passionate, and she gets, sometimes it's a little distracting when she expresses herself, you know, but it doesn't mean she doesn't have good things to say. She does. So she wasn't there. So the noise level was down a little bit. Mark, we all know about Mark. Ain't nobody got time for that. He wasn't there. And we all know how I feel about Castillo. But he wasn't there either. So to me, I'm already excited to watch this episode because I feel like the notorious suspects are not on this episode. So maybe we can focus on what the question is and all of that good stuff. For real?
Yes.
Ooh! She held it.
Nah, that's... Bro. Nah, that's...
To be honest, yeah, she looked like...
So,
after that clip, our question is the father in this clip correct to discipline his daughter in this way, or did he overreact, and is this child abuse?
This is making me feel really tense and uncomfortable.
You guys saw the question. And you watched the video. That video to me was super shocking. As you can see, a father, presumably the child was 12 years old, and I guess she was caught having sex. And the father walked in, and as you saw in the video, he was whooping her with a belt. And as you saw, that was a little excessive, and it was a little bit disturbing, you know? So the question is, do you think the father is right for disciplining his child in this way, or do you think that it's child abuse? Let's go back and see what the castmates have to say about this topic, and then we can go ahead and talk about it. All right?
I'm not used to this type of behaviour. My dad's never put his hand on me. It's bizarre.
This is actually crazy. Like, personally, coming from a Nigerian home, you know, like every day is MMA boxing match, do you get me? But that one, that looked a bit too mad, do you get what I'm saying? Like, he went a bit too overboard with it.
Yep, it's child abuse. He actually called actual bodily harm to his child. If you do not pull blood, make a sore or a blister, you can punish your child, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you know what, yeah? I'm talking from a mother's perspective. I grew up in this kind of environment where it's spare the rod, spoil the child. You understand? I'm looking at this picture and I do not think, oh my gosh, shit, he's abusing her. Because the reality is, if I was back in my day growing up and I brought a man and my dad caught, you know, me having sex with a man in bed, and I think the girl's 12 years old. I think she is. I think she's 12 years old because I remember it was on social media. I would have got licked. So for me, when I see this, I'm not sitting there thinking child abuse. I'm thinking, girl, this is what would have happened to me. But I'm now a mother. So if I now saw my daughter having sex in bed, as much as everything in me believes I will not touch my child, God knows I could go and touch my child, you know, because
Don't
in
forget
my head,
she's 12 years old as well.
Yeah, and we have to remember she's 12 years old, and that's child.
What if you didn't see it? What if you just found out?
That in itself is child abuse. The fact that she's having sex with somebody that is in itself is a crime. Do you get what I'm saying? So I can't sit here and say that's child abuse because I got beat like that when I was growing up. And
I don't think it's child abuse.
I always used to say to my mum that I felt like her the way she disciplined us was too harsh. Now, though it worked and though we listened, we still also rebelled. A lot of parents come from an environment back in Africa and think that they can bring their culture, which is fine, bring your culture back to the UK, but then discipline your child as you were disciplined back in Africa, thinking, you can lick us down and there not be consequences. Whereas you're in a white man's land. This is the UK, this is Britain. You can't beat your child to that extent without there being repercussions.
Esther, man. Being a mother, I know, man. Listen, we don't want to hear about them thing there. Talk about this, that, spare rod. What's a spare rod? Got me confused,
When you're in your parents' home, there's a level of respect that you need to have and rules you need to abide by. And as much as, for example, I grew up in a household where even though my parents were open, there were still rules I had to abide by. And bringing a boy home or whoever home to do those types of things at 12 years old is wrong. It's just bang out of order.
You're dead, fam. Not even wrong, you're dead.
You're dead!
You're dead, fam, you're
But this is the
dead.
thing, it also depends on what kind of upbringing you've got.
Okay, we saw what the castmates had to say about this topic. Let's talk about the girls. Now, it was interesting. A lot of the girls, Nina Rose, she said she felt a little uncomfortable watching that video. It was slightly disturbing. I believe Catherine thought it was disturbing and thought it was overboard. I believe Tara, she thought it was child abuse, period. And OG Esther felt like I liked her perspective on this because I can relate to what Esther's saying. And to me, just like Esther was saying, I come from an African background, and growing up, we did get whoopings was part of life. Whoopings, like Jay said, it was like MMA every day. African parents, like Esther said, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's how we came up. So, like she said, me watching that video, although it was excessive, I believe it was completely excessive. That's a 12-year-old girl, and the way he was whooping her with a belt all over, that is excessive. But if you want me to be completely honest, do I think it's child abuse? Me speaking from being a parent and being raised in a certain generation where whoopings was sort of seen as the norm, I'm sorry, I struggle to see that was child abuse. I see it that it was excessive, way too excessive, and I'm not sitting here saying whooping our kids is we have to whoop our children to be able to discipline them. I'm not saying that. But like the girls were saying, some of the girls were saying, it was kind of obsessive. And it was interesting. The girls were they were concerned about the beatings, but they were more worried about what the father was saying to the girl as he was beating her. So he was whooping her, and he was calling her a hoe, and he was calling her a slut, and he was degrading her. And that's coming from your dad, and that's a 12-year-old girl. And the girls were sort of saying that they didn't really they felt like that would cause more of a impact on the child as to how the child views herself when she grows up. If her own father is calling her these names, you know what I'm saying? Who knows what could be going on behind closed doors, why this girl is doing this at 12, and you calling her names and things is not helping the situation. It's probably gonna make her feel like that's who she is. So I get that point. And also Sylvia, okay? Sylvia,
I used to get beat, and I'll be like, I will tell my dad, I'm going to do it again.
Because you're bad mind.
You're Congolese, that's different. You lot are tough.
I will tell you, I'm going to do it again because you're beating me for no reason.
Are you serious?
I will do it again because you're beating me. I'm going to show you that I'm going to do it again.
What I learned was pain.
Because you're not teaching me nothing.
Exactly.
Other than the pain, you grow used to the pain.
Sylvia, that's what I'm saying. You learn pain. So I don't believe from pain you learn a lesson. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I understand the frustration, but pain...
You learn what makes somebody angry.
Okay, no, you're right.
Rah, Sylvia saying to her dad that she would do it again right after she got beat. Sylvia, you're a brave bitch.
You see, the thing is, another reason why I didn't like this video, because it reminded me of my childhood. My dad used to feel like it was okay to beat me a lot for stupid reasons. And because the reasons were so stupid, after a while, you start to feel numb to the beats. So every time he'll beat me, I'll be letting him know, guess what? I'm going to do it again. So you're going to beat me today, but tomorrow get prepared to beat me again. Because the same thing you're beating me for is coming back one more time.
So look, I'm being too deterministic. So you're absolutely right. Like you're.
Yeah. Okay. Sylvia came with a different perspective. Although she is African and was raised African, Sylvia was talking more about the fact that she got whoopings 24/7, in her household, and it in turn made her resent her own father and had a strained relationship with her father as she was growing up. Okay, I'm about to sneeze. Hold on. Nature calls, guys. Nature freaking calls. Okay. Okay, so let's get back into it. So Sylvia was saying, although she got whoopings all the time, she felt like the whoopings didn't help her at all. It did not help one bit. In fact, every time her dad would whoop her, she would turn around and tell her dad, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Sylvia, I don't know. You from Congolese, so I guess you guys are a little bit more feisty, because as a Nigerian, how dare you speak back? Lord Jesus, try to speak back to your parents, let alone tell them, I'm going to do it again. You are dead. They're going to kill you, send you back home, and bad things will happen to you. I'm just saying. So I don't know how she got away with telling her dad it's going to happen again. Okay? All right, let's go back and see what some of the boys are talking about with regards to this topic.
Do you believe that you learn the lesson from being beaten, and is there any other lesson to be learned other than there will be painful consequences?
I feel like I learned the lesson when I became an adult. I understood.
Yeah.
What was the lesson? I don't think at the time I understood. I just thought, let me take the beating. But now I'm an adult, I feel like I did learn.
What did you learn?
For example, my mum always used to say to me, you're growing up too fast. And the reality is I did grow up too fast.
So she tried to stunt
So
your
let me finish. When I say, no, you dumb. What I'm trying to say to you is that the reason that I say that I understand now why my mum was so disciplined and why she was trying to shield me so much and why she felt beating would help is because, for example, I had a baby at 21. Do you get what I'm saying? 20 or 20 years old. Whereas in my mum's eyes, I should have really, in my culture, gotten married, then had children. Do you get what I'm saying? So, can you say, do you get where I'm coming from? I did things.
But what did you learn from being beaten?
I learned the pain in it. The pain was like, don't do it. Don't do it.
That's my point. So that's my point. Apart from pain, do you learn anything?
Hindsight's 2020.
Okay, as you guys heard, B Money, he made a lot of sense. Okay, he actually made me rethink that question if it was abuse. And like B Money said, you know, to a certain degree, whooping someone with a belt all over, you know what I'm saying, out of control, whooping them, it is abuse. It is abuse, okay? Intentional abuse, that's one thing, okay? Intentional abuse. But if we're speaking from, like Esther said, if we're speaking from being Africans and this is how we've been raised, it's hard to really see that as abuse because we are immune to that shit. But like B Money was saying, looking at it from the westernized point of view, because some of the guys like Chris, like Terrell, like a part of what B Money was saying was that he felt like it was child abuse. They felt like at the end of the day, there are other ways to discipline your child. You don't know what could be happening to that child behind closed doors to where they're acting out in that way. And the younger ones, I felt like the younger cast members were a little bit more on the, yes, it's child abuse and stuff like that, you know? But the older ones, like Esther and B Money and stuff, kind of understood. Even Jay, even though Jay is young and he's African, I like Jay on this episode. I felt like Jay did not come out with a whole load of immature conversation when it came to this topic. He really did speak some sense, and he did, you know, like he said, coming from an African household, it's fighting, it's whoopings all the time. Every little thing you get whooped for. But at the same time, it doesn't make it right, you know, that we discipline like that. So I get it. I also liked, you know, the angle that Catherine was coming from as well.
But this is the thing, it also depends on what kind of like upbringing you've got. Like I got an upbringing, like I had an upbringing where my mum was like, no. And that was it. It's like, if I'm not allowed out of the house, you're not allowed out of the house. It's as simple as that. There is no fighting back or arguing. Like, and the fact that she's underage, that's unconsensual, that's rape. Like,
right.
Whoever's done it, even if it's an older person and she's agreed to it, like, her father has every right not to whoop her that hard. I understand the whooping, she had it coming, but at the end of the day, there's certain levels.
The issue I find with this video is not so much like, I don't think it's child abuse. I get that he's obviously just like being a loving parent, but if it was your son, would he have got the same beating?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say
I'm getting high fives. Tell us something.
Once upon a time, I've been for them thing they understand.
Catherine, you know, I like her on Bkchat. I feel like she does say a lot of very intelligent things. Like, she articulates herself very well. You can tell she's very passionate about the things she speaks on, and when she speaks, people tend to listen. And I feel like she looks outside the box. She doesn't just view it as, okay, she's getting whooped. She's thinking about what could be happening to this child behind the scenes. She's only 12. Why is she acting like this? Is she being molested? Is she being touched? Is she being groomed? Is she being, you know, there's so many different factors that enable kids act out in a certain way. And what Catherine was kind of saying, and some of the other cast members were saying, was, you know, we have to, as parents, look deeper. Let's go back and see what more they're talking about, and then we'll come back and dissect this.
Of, I've got a daughter. I'm going to raise my daughter differently to my son, unfortunately, and that is just facts. Like, and so if my son, yeah, I may not react to the point where I might beat him the way she was beaten, but my son will get a stern discipline. Do you get what I'm saying? But when it comes to a girl, when it comes to a girl, we have to please. We should not raise. We can't sit here and say if it's a boy, it's different. Yes, it will be different because it's the girl that's going to turn around and say,
I'm pregnant or whatever.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And furthermore, if the boy is underage, even though he may be underage and she's underage, they will say that he raped her. Exactly. So we have to raise our daughters and sons very differently. Do you know what I'm saying?
I completely agree.
The child deserves every licks the child got, Child nasty and dirty, you get me? What you know about sex at 12 years old, Should be fucking drawing on the wall with a crayon.
Okay, but then you need to understand, this is where we have to come back to the reality of, I've got a daughter.
Pierre. Now, see, I thought we got rid of Castillo, okay? I thought we handled that situation right there. And then what did you do, Bkchat? What have you done? You throw in Pierre. Why does he have a bonnet on his head? Why does he speak the way he does? What is he talking about? He's ignorant as ish. Cancel him. In fact, I don't even know, between him and Castillo, I don't even know who's better, okay? Because he's making Castillo, I'm afraid, look good right now. Who the hell is Pierre? He shouldn't have been on this panel. He was coming out with the most outlandish crap. What? Did you see how he was referring to that little girl? Talking about she dirty, she this, she that. Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you? Look at you, boy. Look at you. Grown man stranded in a little boy's body. What's wrong with you? You had to get up off the table because you were so short. You had to get up off the table so you could be seen and heard. And the things that came out of your mouth was bullshit. Wow. If I were you, I'd be mad too. I'd be bitter too. I'm sorry. Oh no. So anyway, forget about that fool. Okay? So you guys heard. I love this topic a lot because I feel like a lot of us can relate to this topic. And, it's interesting also to see the younger generation and how they think about something like this. And then people from our generation, our age group, what they think too. It's a really, really good debate. Well done, Bkchat. You guys did good with this topic. And I feel like this topic we could talk about this topic for a very long time. We could sit here and discuss this topic. There's different levels. There's different ways of looking at this topic. And I feel like for me, I'm going to just talk about myself. For me as a parent and being an African and being raised with a heavy hand. I have 3 children, 3 boys. I feel like, number one, first of all, we have to raise our boys and our girls the same. Yes, there's certain slightly different approach that you would take when dealing with a boy and when dealing with a girl. But the basis, the morals, the rules remains the same for both. That's what I truly believe. I do not believe this shit about, I don't believe this crap about, you treat girls differently to how you treat your boys. No, someone on the cast, I think it was B Money or someone was asking if that was a boy, do you think the father would whoop him that bad? I couldn't tell you, but somehow deep down inside, I feel like if it was a boy, the father would handle it slightly different. So for me, okay, as a parent, I'm not gonna lie, when I had my first child, I'm not gonna lie, whooping was discipline. That's all I knew. Because that's how I was raised. I thought that's how you discipline kids. You feel me? And then as you grow and you get older and you bond with your child and you figure this whole motherhood thing out, you realize quick, you start coming into your own and start figuring out what works for you. okay? It has to be what works for you. You have to get to know your own child and what responses would go better with which child. Like Catherine was saying, each child responds to beatings differently. She didn't ever get beat. She didn't ever get whooped by her parents. Okay. And some of the castmates were like, oh, because you're so pretty, or you're so, you're light skinned, or you're pretty. That's why you didn't get whooped. That's bull crap. I think every time Catherine speaks, it feels like someone has to say, oh, you're not black enough, or you're just a pretty girl. You don't know what we're talking about, or you don't understand because you are pretty and you're privileged. I feel that it's not fair. I feel like she has valid opinions, and I feel like just because she's mixed or whatever doesn't mean that she can, or she doesn't have kids, does not mean that she doesn't have opinions and views. Okay, so y'all need to start listening to my girl Catherine. Anyways, so like I was saying with my kids, I felt like I grew. As you get closer and you start bonding with your child, you realize, you know what? I don't want to whoop you like my parents whooped me. I want us to find a different way. And obviously, being raised in the Western world, certain things you can't do. You know what I mean? Certain things you're not allowed to do. So at the end of the day, you have to take that into consideration as well. You can't bring your child from Africa, bring her to the Western world, and think that certain things, certain ways you discipline it in Africa, you can come to the Western world and do that to your child. Guess what? Your ass is going to jail. You're going to a jail. They'll take your kids and you're done. Do you understand? You cannot do that. Don't come from Africa and think that you can use the same rules over here. You're done, sis. Don't do it. Okay? And so I feel like in time, as I went on to have kids, I started learning what works for me and what doesn't. Okay? And so the whoopings got lesser and conversations got more. You feel me? So I agree with the castmates when they were talking about some of them like Sylvia and Catherine and some of the boys were saying, you need to talk to your kids. You need to, there's other ways of disciplining your kids. But child, I'm sorry. Kids need a little whooping. I'm just, call me whatever. Like kids need a little spanking here and there. Yes. I truly stand by that. I feel that it ain't nothing wrong with a little tap, but ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It works for me and mines, okay? It works for me and mines, and they're doing great, okay? I gotta tell them one time and one time only, okay? So, but for me, whoopings is really the last resort. And for me, I think I incorporate whoopings if you go against your moralistic stance of life that I've instilled in you. Like if you steal, if you hurt somebody in a bad way, certain things I just will not tolerate in my household for my child. It's not okay. You will get your ass whooped. If you're disrespectful in a rude way, if you're sitting there mouthing up at me, I will whoop you. Okay? Okay? I will. I can't tolerate disrespect. So there's certain things I feel that sometimes you need to show them like, boom. And also, I don't know, some of you parents might be able to relate to what I'm saying or not, but do you realize that sometimes with kids, you might tell them once, twice, 3 times, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And they keep going, they keep going, they keep going. And then you just tap them on the butt one time and they're good as gold. Has that ever happened to you? As a parent, it happens all the time and they behave just like that. So yes, back to the question, I feel like it is abuse, but for me, I would like to see the intentions behind it. And you got to understand as well, as parents, sometimes you love your kids so much that when they disappoint you, you act off of emotions. We're only human. You're only human as a parent. And you act off of emotion. That father probably walked in, saw his child in bed with a boy, and you just like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Your heart's racing. You just like, oh my God. And you just react. Okay, I get that part. And as a parent, if we're real with ourselves, that's what happens. You react off of emotions first before you catch yourself. And I agree with the girls and some of the boys. You have to sit that child back down and you have to talk. You know, the problem is not in the whoopings. The problem is how you deal with the situation after. Like B Money said, whoopings don't teach you anything but fear. I agree with that. To this day, I'm in my 40s and I still fear my parents. Certain things I won't do because if my parents found out, I'm done out here. It don't matter if I'm 40. My African mom, Nigerian mom will whoop me. My dad, everyone, aunties, uncles, everything. You know? So you still have that fear that they've instilled in you. You know? So that's what whooping does. But at the same time, it's good for kids to have a little fear. It's good to have a little fear. Fear of authority, fear of failing, fear of going to jail, fear of if my mother finds out, I'm done out here. Fear of that. A child should always have fear. Kids who do not have fear of anything, they're dangerous. They are dangerous. A child must always have some sort of something that they fear, that they know, and it should be that if I mess up and they call my parents, I'm done out here. You know, because at the end of the day, we know, look at society, look at the young people, they are acting, they are doing a lot. They're seeing a lot. They are going through a lot. There's a lot going on. And at the end of the day, talking and communication is key. You can whoop them, but you must make sure you speak to that child. You explain to that child. You try to dig deep and see what's going on behind the scenes with that child. And like B Money said, why are you whooping your child and posting it for the world to see? That right there is abuse. That right there is wrong. That right there is the father violated. You're exposing your child. I wouldn't know your 12-year-old was having sex if you didn't post that video. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that's not going to help that child. Now you've created, everyone knows about this child. So the chances of her getting out there and actually trying to be better, it's going to be hard because everyone knows what she did at 12. You know, so I feel like, whoopings should not be your go-to discipline, type of discipline for your child. But you should get to know your child and know what works for them. Someone like Sylvia, whoopings did not help her. She said whoopings actually made her rebel even more. Whoopings made her feel like, you know what, I'm going to do it again. Okay? Because this ain't it. Right? So if you know you have a child that reacts, that is immune to the whoopings, you got to think of a different approach. You got to figure out a way to get through to your child. You can't give up on your kids, no matter what they've done, no matter how heinous, no matter what it is. You have to try to get to the bottom of it. And just whooping them and calling them a hoe and just trashing them and making them feel worse, it's not going to teach them anything. All you've done is make them scared of you. And like Sylvia said, some kids might be that freaking bold to get the whoopings, realize, okay, I'm never going to bring someone to the house, but I will go behind the bike shed and I will do what I do. So either way, nobody wins. Okay? So guys, that's my take on this topic. I didn't want to give you way too much clips and things like that. It's more of a discussion topic. And I just wanted to, as a parent, I just wanted to have my say so and my little 2 pence in the discussion. So I felt like the castmates did speak. They did have, the good thing about this episode, I enjoyed this episode. They did have a variety of different opinions. They did have people who had experiences of the topic and they could speak coming from, what they know, okay, what they're used to, how they were raised. And it was nice also that there wasn't a lot of shouting. There wasn't a lot of disrespect to individuals except Pierre. He's canceled out here. Yeah, so I enjoyed the topic. It was a good topic. We could all relate. And I feel like, when it comes to your child. Only you know what works and what doesn't. And I feel like a little discipline a little whooping does not hurt the child too much, but we should not use it as the be all and end all. Try communicating, taking their things, other things, but mostly communication. Talk to your kids, get to know your kids. I'm not saying be friends with them, but at the end of the day, tell them the truth, speak to them, find out what's going on, and protect your kids. Find out what's going on in their lives, rather than just be an authoritative figure and you just want to discipline and whoop them for no reason and you're not talking to them. A lot of African parents do that. They whoop you and they don't sit down and talk to you. When I used to get whooped, when my siblings used to get whooped, they never sat us down and discussed why we whooped you, we still love you, and all of this stuff. You just took your whoopings and you just bounced and you just dealt with life, and it's created a lot of hurt kids, a lot of hurt grown-ups like myself, a lot of grown-ups who have been affected by the way they were raised as African descents, So for me, I feel like we could all learn a different way of disciplining our kids. But I don't feel we should look down on those parents who actually choose to whoop their children. But please, don't bruise your child. Don't leave marks on your child. Don't use belts and things like that. That's excessive. We're not in slave days. Don't do that. Try to communicate with your kids and try to be honest with your kids and do your job as a parent. Pay attention to every single thing that they're doing. Show interest in their lives. Be aware of what they're watching, the people they're with, what they're doing out here, okay? Don't just come when you find out that they've done something wrong and start whooping them left, right, and center. Where were you? Where was anyone when that 12-year-old girl was in the house by herself? How is she getting to this point? There are questions that needs to be answered. There are people that need to hold themselves accountable. And also the parents also need to be real with themselves and hold themselves accountable because they weren't present. Okay, well, that's it for me and my feedback on Bkchat episode 7. How do you guys feel about this episode? Did you enjoy this episode? Comment down below. Don't forget, subscribe to my channel. Like this video if you agreed with anything that I said. If you liked any part of this video, just anything, just click the like button so that YouTube knows to put my videos out there for everybody else. Okay, all right guys, that's it for Bkchat review. Hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your Sunday, and I hope you have a great week ahead. All right, until next time, Cookie Crew, I'm your girl Cookie, Miss Capricorn, Miss Tell It Like It Is, Cookie Crew, peace.